Good evening. We're going to get started here. If you'd please take your seats. So thank you for being here. First of all, I'd like to apologize. Marcia asked me for a headshot, and the best I could do was 8 years and 20 pounds ago, so it's the best we have. Thank you for joining us this evening for the 2021 annual meeting of the Economic Development Council of Livingston County. My name is Mike Arkinel. I'm the Township Manager of Genoa Township, and I am this year's chair of the EDLC. I'm glad to have you join us. The EDLC was formed in 1984 as a public-private partnership with the goal to strengthen the economic base for Livingston County through the retention, expansion, attraction, and development of jobs and capital investment within driving industries. Since 2012, the EDLC has partnered with Ann Arbor SPARK to provide professional staff in Livingston County who have worked closely with the private and public entities to facilitate community and economic development activities, implement strategic initiatives, as well as collaborations to the benefit of our local employers, our schools, as well as all of Livingston County communities. I want to acknowledge our municipal partners. Up on the screen, we have highlighted municipalities that continue to make Economic Development Council a strong partnership between our local communities. In addition to our municipal partners, I want to acknowledge specifically the Livingston County Board of Commissioners for the continuing support of the EDLC and the work SPARK does in our county. In addition, our private sector partners help to support our efforts and sustain growth in Livingston County. These are companies that understand that economic development efforts are important elements of a thriving business ecosystem. Through strong support from the public and private sector, the EDC is directed by a robust board of local leaders. Through SPARK's efforts to grow private sector participation in the EDCLC, we welcome 2 new board members in 2021. James Hogan with Thai Summit of America and Andy Klein, president of Rand Construction. We look forward to the energy and leadership these 2 companies bring to our organization. I would also like at this time to recognize State Representatives Ann Boland and Bob Zott, who continue to support our efforts. Finally, it is my pleasure to announce this evening's sponsors. We are grateful to these community partners that help to make our event this evening possible. And thank you for being part of the collective work to build on Livingston's growing economy. At this time, I'd like to introduce Marcia Gaborowski with Ann Arbor SPARK to introduce our award this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. First, I need to say that I am so delighted, overwhelmed to be exact, to see all of you here this evening and showing your support for the mission and the work of the EDCLC and Ann Arbor SPARK. When planning this year's annual meeting, we reintegrated awards done years ago back into our program. Not only do they tell a great story of success in our own backyard, but they also provide recognition to those businesses and organizations thinking outside of the box and helping to create and implement best practices to support our existing businesses, develop our own workforce, and sustain our local communities. First up is this year's Resilience Award.
The Resilience Award honors ChemCrest for their commitment to organizational resiliency, who has demonstrated their ability to adapt and respond and make a positive impact in Livingston County during these unprecedented times. ChemCrest is a respected leader that delivers exceptional quality, service, and products. They invest in their employees and serve their community. ChemCrest specializes in total program management to reduce material costs through supply chain, fulfillment, chemical packaging, and after-sales strategies.
Thank you to the EDCLC and Ann Arbor SPARK for recognizing ChemCrest for resiliency over the past year. The pandemic has created many challenges for businesses here in Livingston County and across the country. Through these challenges, we were able to shift a portion of our business towards mass production of sanitizer and e-commerce fulfillment of personal protective equipment of all varieties. During the height of COVID, we manufactured and distributed over 500,000 gallons of sanitizer to our local community and businesses across North America. Our team has learned tremendous amounts from this, and we continue to support our community through our ChemShield products, as well as expand our future growth potential with new e-commerce opportunities. With all these successes, we at ChemCrest cannot consider ourselves resilient unless we acknowledge the most resilient, dependable, and committed members of our team. This is our operations team members. From production, kitting, to warehousing, our operations group is the strongest of us all. They have endured a stress-filled, ever-dynamic, changing landscape and have delivered day after day to ensure our core customers and new business ventures are successful. Without them, ChemCrest would not be capable of what we set out to accomplish. On behalf of our team, I say thank you again for recognizing our company.
At this time, I'd like to invite the team from ChemCrest to come up, accept your award, and stand for a picture. Now for this year's Talent Innovator of the Year Award.
The Talent Innovator Award is awarded to Livingston County Manufacturing Collaborative in recognition for their inventive, resourceful, and cutting-edge new ways to develop and retain critical talent in Livingston County. Ann Arbor SPARK and the Greater Area Brighton Chamber of Commerce convened the Livingston Manufacturing Collaborative in 2018. This group of 9 employers meet on a regular basis to share data and ideas in an effort to create a pipeline of talent for critical jobs in the county. In 2020, the collaborative's champion employer, Work Skills Corporation, worked with SPARK to create a curriculum using virtual reality and computer-based online training methods to expedite workforce training for critical skilled trades positions. This year, members of the collaborative participated in a pilot program using this curriculum, which combines skilled trades and soft skills training using a flexible schedule and can be completed on-site. Through the pilot, this hybrid training model using virtual reality modules and online coursework has proven its effectiveness to rapidly upskill, as well as help retain employees for critical positions in Livingston County.
Marcia from Ann Arbor SPARK and Pam from the Greater Brighton Area Chamber of Commerce approached me wanting to talk about the lack of skilled trades and the growing need that was occurring throughout Southeast Michigan, and that they had participated in a talent pipeline management program, TPM, and asked if Work Skills would be the champion employer to help convene groups of employers to address this lack of skilled talent that was emerging. We pulled together a group of 9 employers and started meeting for 2 years, dealing specifically with what technical positions did we see the largest skills gap and need. And our group identified that maintenance technicians was a huge need, and that in the next 5 years, there were going to be 35 to 40 openings just between the 9 employers in this collaborative.
So one of the amazing things about this particular program is that it ties in all different types of learning for our individuals. We've always had a very robust training plan. We work with 2 of our local community colleges to train our maintenance guys, and it doesn't always tell us everything we need to know. One of the amazing things with the pre-assessment is that it tells us where those folks are at. We were able to customize a very specific training plan that incorporated many things within our building, hands-on, leadership skills, virtual reality, and it very much gave us a better opportunity to gauge that these folks are going to be successful in the environment that we work in, which is very different than simply taking a college class and being able to pass it.
We're already seeing other opportunities to use this program. We have a fast track right now for machine operators that are looking to cross-train into maintenance technicians, and we see a number of other opportunities in the future to use the TPM and to benefit the employers in the area.
So the participating employers of the Livingston County Manufacturing Collaborative include Work Skills Corporation, Thai Summit, TG Fluids, Asahi Kasei, Aludyne, Flexible Metals, Brighton NC, Chemcrest, and Hatch Stamping. I'd like to invite any representative of those employers up to receive your award and stand for a picture. Oh, they're not here. They're not here. And finally, I am so pleased to recognize our 2021 Project of the Year.
The Project of the Year honors FT Techno of America, that was responsible for a project that made a meaningful and sustainable impact in Livingston County. FT Techno of America, or FTTA, operates an automotive vehicle evaluation center on proving grounds spanning approximately 950 acres in Handy Township. The facility is dedicated to engineering, design, R&D, testing, and prototype activities to support FTTA's parent company Aishin and its affiliates in North America. Since the facility opened in 2005, FTTA has continued to invest in and expand on their capabilities and services at the proving grounds. In 2021, FTTA invested $8.7 million into the construction of a 1.4-mile handling course, as well as an area of special services for evaluating vehicle ride comfort, noise, harshness, and vibration.
On behalf of FTTA and our parent company Aishin, I would like to express our appreciation for this special recognition. When we chose to build the proving ground in Livingston County in 2005, we did so because of the proximity to major universities, the talent pool, cooperation from EDCLC, Handy Township, Livingston County, and of course the natural setting that allowed us to develop a facility of this nature. Support from state and local government and other stakeholders, such as SPARK and EDCLC, has been critical to our success over the years, including SPARK's technical assistance along with Handy Township on behalf of this year's expansion project. Our location in Livingston County is also a key competitive advantage as a full-featured development center minutes from the automotive capital of the world. FTTA is part of the Aishin Corporation, the 5th largest Tier 1 automotive supplier in the world. This project represents our 7th phase of construction in 15 years, with total investment to date exceeding $100 million. Accordingly, FTTA will continue to expand our scope of testing facilities and services focused on connected, autonomous, shared, and electric, especially in the field of advanced driver assistance systems. As we continue driving forward and expanding our capability, we are excited for the potential to attract more automotive and new and emerging high-tech companies from other regions. We truly appreciate the ongoing support from our partners in Livingston County, including Ann Arbor SPARK, as we work together to take on many unique challenges in this unprecedented landscape of the future of mobility.
I'd like to invite the team from FT Techno of America to the stage to receive your award. This evening's highlighted accomplishments make up just some of the work SPARK has been involved in over the past year in Livingston County. Earlier in the year, I believe we put it out in April, we worked with the University of Michigan to publish our inaugural Livingston Economic Forecast Report. The data in this report has helped shape conversations across the county in which industries we can support the attraction of, and where we can perhaps support gaps in our local workforce. Other initiatives throughout the year, we've continued to work on our site readiness efforts and promoting industrial properties that can support new development in the county, such as the proposed innovation zone at Latson Road in 96, and the industrial property along Grand River owned by Handy Township. One of the greatest accomplishments year over year in my 5-year tenure working in Livingston County on behalf of Ann Arbor SPARK has been the collaborations, working with our local chambers, our Convention and Visitors Bureau, all of our partners, our intermediate school district. It's those collaborations, it's those connections that continue to build a solid foundation that allows Livingston County to be a magnet for our region and to allow best practices to succeed, and we're able to be a hotbed for that. And hopefully we can continue to grow some of what we are doing here elsewhere and across the state. I would now like to invite Paul Kretko, President and CEO of Ann Arbor SPARK, to the stage to share some insights from our organization from the past year.
Good evening. I want to thank Mike and Marcia for putting this program together, and I'm very pleased to be with you again tonight. And I do want to take a moment and again, let's acknowledge those great award winners. Those were some tremendous projects that all of you in Livingston County should be very, very proud of, and we were proud to help make them happen. So, you know, as Marcia said, each of those awardees represent what can be accomplished through partnerships and collaborations, and is a small reflection of the great things that put Livingston County on the map. And I know in the panel we're going to hear about more of those collaborations later in this evening. You know, for the last 9 years, Ann Arbor SPARK has had the privilege to partner with the EDC in helping to execute their vision and mission of retaining, attracting, and growing local businesses. I want to express my appreciation to the EDCLC board for putting their trust in Ann Arbor SPARK and my team to do this work on your behalf. We are very honored to have that opportunity. And we like the fact that you're keeping Marcia and Nick very busy here this year and for years to come. I also want to highlight, I'm going a little bit off script, I want to really we're particularly excited about the work that Tammy's doing in downtown Brighton with the local businesses there, and also her work in helping us get more private sector partners for your efforts up here. So I want to acknowledge Tammy's work this evening. You know, the COVID-19 pandemic has been a time of unprecedented challenges for both SPARK and all of us and all those we serve. But it's also proved as an opportunity to demonstrate the value of a dedicated and innovative regional economic development organization like us to focus on sectors of our local economy that were negatively impacted by the pandemic. SPARK was among 10 economic development organizations that the state legislature picked to disperse small business relief funds locally. And we were honored that the state acknowledged the role, the legislature acknowledged the role of local regional economic development organizations with boots on the ground to really impact this problem. The funds we allocated, most of them came through the state. The legislature approved the use of the Recovery Act funds. And that's what made up the vast majority of the resources that we were able to provide to Livingston County businesses. However, our team didn't stop there. We got additional funds were secured locally through foundations. The Small Business Assistance Fund was established by SPARK in collaboration with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Heartland Chamber of Commerce, Howell Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Greater Brighton Area Chamber of Commerce. Since the start of the pandemic, SPARK has distributed more than $3.2 million in grants to over 330 small businesses here in Livingston County. And we know from the stories that they tell us that this money was meaningful and needed and really helped them stay in business and survive. We collaborated with our partners like the First National Bank of Howell, our local chambers of commerce, to present the information to small businesses at a moment's notice. We worked to ensure the funding made available to Livingston County was distributed efficiently and equitably. We developed strategies to communicate about the funding programs, created the application process, assembled the local application review panels who took the responsibility. And it was, I should really want to underscore that. Your community members stepped up and were the ones that were making the decision. So our role was to really facilitate getting the applications and delivering the money to the selected and designated companies. And, those local partners made some difficult decisions about how to allocate that money. They were clearly, while the assistance was great to receive, the need was very great. And so there had to be some decisions made and priorities made about what businesses we could help and we could serve. So I want to share with you now some response on how those funds helped 2 local businesses fare through the pandemic.
So Torch 180 is a training facility for individuals who have disabilities. We train them for work, for employment in the food service industry. Our grand opening was supposed to be the first Saturday in April, but in March, after we had our students for a few weeks, all of a sudden everything got shut down.
We had students on Thursday. They were canceled on Friday. So suddenly we went from, all right, we have our bottom lines figured out to we have no income. So we started seeing all these grants pop up and we're like, you know what, we gotta apply for absolutely everything that crosses our path right now.
When you're a small organization like us and, kind of been in the startup mode for a few years, we're really used to hearing no. So we got a really nice email saying, congratulations, just wanted to inform you that you guys have been awarded $10,000, which was really huge.
And I was in the kitchen, and I'll never forget it. I'm like, Rhonda, we actually got it.
I wanted to cry because we just needed it. It just came at such a good time.
I can't even explain to you guys how encouraging and uplifting it was, not just for Rhonda and myself, but for our board, for people who had donated, who had volunteered to paint and do stuff in here. It was like, all right, we're still fighting. We live to fight another day.
It just, helped us to get over that hump and kind of see a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
COVID has hit everybody, but the Fowlerville community, Livingston County community has been amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Come on out and see what these students can do, because they're going to blow you away with who they are as humans, the food they can make. They are the most impressive people I've probably ever met.
Caterate is a wholesale European-style bakery. If it's out there and they have a need for something cutting edge in food, we do it. During COVID-19, our industry has been affected dramatically. Everyone's in survival mode. The banquet industry is almost at a standstill, and we really need to find ways to sustain our company through this all. I applied for numerous grants, and typically I don't even hear anything. So happy to hear that we were one of the lucky ones to receive the grant. To finally see that I got one, I mean, obviously there was some elation coming there. I mean, the thoughts that, someone cares. I mean, someone's thinking about my company. We're not just a face in the crowd, and it was very uplifting. Every little bit of money that we can get to help this company sustain is very important to us. So it helps us pay for insurance payments, health insurance, keeping maybe a few more people working instead of using a little bit more of a skeleton crew. And we use the funds, very gratefully.
Great stories, and we have hundreds of them that if we had time we could share with you. I do want to acknowledge as well, we have representatives of some of your key financial institutions here. The Lake Trust Credit Union, the First National Bank of Howell, and I may be missing others. But I want to also acknowledge the yeoman's work they all did with the PPP program and taking hundreds of loans and working aggressively with their clients to bring money into the community. So I really want to acknowledge that, David, that was something that was really, very important across the region when you talk. The small business grants went to very small businesses, but we have, significant employers that really also needed the help that program provided. And we're in an interesting time, and I'll just share with you, we do have state reps in the room. The legislature and the governor are discussing, I'll say it that way, how to use the American Rescue Plan money that's coming into the state. And we really firmly believe at Spark that in advocating your interests, that a significant amount of that money should be spent on economic development and our future and preparing for the future. Some of you may have seen my comments recently that were published about the recent announcement by Ford. And that announcement should be a wake-up call for all of us that we need to do everything we can to continue to be the leader of the world in automotive technologies and be prepared and not cede anything to our great friends down in Tennessee. And so just a little commercial there on that topic. Off script, by the way. So as important as, and understand, we're talking about significant resources. The state of Michigan, I think, is receiving about $9 billion under that program. And this is we could create a legacy. We could create a legacy for our kids and for our future if we make wise decisions in the next few months. Now, as important as these new initiatives are and continues to be for the community, we at Spark continue to do our regular work and didn't let it interfere with our traditional metrics for business development in Livingston County. By constantly working to retain and help expand the businesses that are already here and to attract new employers to the region, we're building on your economic foundation. This bodes well for the county's future because, as we all know, there's nothing more appealing than success. You see a company locate, other companies say, why did that company go there? Why did they expand there? So building a continuous cycle of growth and development is very, very important. And doing that, working particularly on the retention side keeps the businesses we have here from looking elsewhere and making others want to be here. This success is evident over the past 9 years with the retention visits to 214 local employers and 51 separate business development projects that have collectively resulted in $325 million in new investment in Livingston County, with more than 1,300 committed jobs as a result of the investment. So I think we should give us all of ourselves a round of applause because that's a significant achievement for the county over the last 9 years. So to close, as one of my former bosses, the mayor of San Jose, would always say, companies come where they're wanted and stay where they're appreciated. And that's what we in the EDCLC are all about, appreciating the companies we have and telling companies that want to come here that they're wanted. So thank you. I'd like to bring Marcia back to the stage as she kicks off tonight's panel discussion.
I hope everybody's enjoying their dinner. Thank you, Paul, for your comments, and it's something that in this profession that I absolutely live by, and that's why I love doing what I do in my hometown. So the highlight of this evening is doing a panel discussion, and at this point I'm going to invite our panelists to the stage. Dr. Alan Drimmer, president of Cleary University, Shamar Heron, Executive Director of Michigan Works Southeast. Dr. Michael Hubert, Superintendent of the Livingston Educational Services Agency. Susie Murphy, Vice President of Work Skills. And Andrea Ferraro, Senior Director of Human Resources at Ascension. So if you could all come to the stage and take a seat. Well, just real quick, because I did not get to see my friend Shamar. Sorry, I had to get that out of the way. So tonight's panel, it will be moderated. I will be asking questions. We will be having some dialogue for a period of time, but this is meant to be an open conversation. After we are done with the moderated portion, we highly encourage any questions from the audience. Nick will have a microphone walking around. Just raise your hand. If you think you're loud enough, just ask. So we really do hope that this is interactive. And I hope that we have assembled the right amount of people with the right skill sets to hopefully shed a little light on talent retention in a changing environment. So question one, and I'm going to ask everybody, and we're going to start with Andrea. Tell me about something being done in your organization or a program that you offer that supports the development or growth of your employees. And has this proven to help retain people within your organization?
All right, is this on?
Test. Yep.
So one of the programs that we have at Ascension is something called our Regional Onboarding Center. We call it the ROC because we work in healthcare and everything in healthcare is an acronym. That program brings people in sometimes just with their education and then takes them forward into the skills that we need for them to work in our facilities. So it bridges that gap between somebody that just comes in maybe with an RN degree and takes them a little bit farther into our programs and how we are doing things at Ascension. And so we feel like that sets them up for a really good future with us.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Hubert?
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And Marcia, I admire your work, the work of the EDC. It's an honor to be part of this panel tonight. I guess what I'd like to bring to the conversation on employee retention particularly is our work within our education system on our leadership blueprints. When I think about retention of employees, I think about organizational culture, right? It's often that culture that allows us to attract and retain and maximize our employees. I also think about leadership. And I've found that it's where our leadership skills end that we often see employee dissatisfaction and distrust start to emerge. And that, when we think about the retention of employees, isn't a good thing, right? So about 3 years ago, we started working to create some new networks in our public education system. And we partnered with the Flippin Group out of Houston, Texas. And we first started studying the service profit chain. And many of you may be familiar with that, but those that aren't, the service profit chain is a management concept or theory that emerged in the late 90s and really looks at the chain links leading up to a company's profitability or growth and how customer loyalty, customer satisfaction are contributors to that profit and growth. And particularly when there's a value proposition from an organization driven by employees that are bringing that value to those customers and how that can be maximized in an environment where there's really good internal quality and really good leadership. So as we reflected on those things, we're like, hey, we want to maximize that first big link in the chain, which is the leadership piece, and not assume that that's the strongest link in the chain just because our titles designate us as leaders, right? But we want to make sure we have those right skill sets in our toolbox. So we started working further with the Flippin Group and created a leadership profile for every administrator that's in our organizational systems in the school. So not just at the agency, but across all of our public educators, educational systems. And that profile was created through really a word identification that the Flippin Group does with people that we trust as leaders, and created a profile that was essentially a blueprint. That blueprint existed much like it would for a construction project, to see yourself someday, to see that project someday. and became an anchor to our work in advancing our efforts to grow as leaders. And so we identified through that 13 different areas in leadership and where we existed relative to other successful leaders, what our strengths were, what our constraints were, and particularly confronted those constraints because as I found, it's where we don't deal with our constraints as leaders that our employees have to. And that's often where some of that distrust and dysfunction can emerge. And so we focused there and created traction plans and have spent more than a year now advancing our work every day on those traction plans to become better leaders. And that blueprint, that leadership blueprint that exists at pretty broad scale when we think about superintendents, principals, assistant principals, instructional coaches, teacher leaders. There are hundreds now of education leaders across our county that are engaged in this work, becoming better. And I really think as I compare notes with my peers across the state and how their educational systems are struggling for talent, and we're able to have talent in our county school system and retain that talent, I really come back to a lot of this leadership work we've been doing and these blueprints that are an anchor to those efforts. And so I really like the work we're doing, and I think it's why you can be proud of our Livingston County school system because of the work we're doing in that regard. So that's what I bring to the conversation tonight is that piece.
Right, thank you. Dr. Drimmer?
Thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for what you're doing with the school system. That's the bedrock of so much that's going on here. You know, we're a university, so we're committed to the success, so the development of our students. And when it comes to retention of staff, you think it's obvious. Like, well, people understand what we're doing and why their specific role is important, but actually, I found it to be a challenge, and I found it to be important to remind people in a lot of different ways about what we do and why it's important. And you think, well, why would you have, it's a school, you're helping people move ahead, but perhaps because of COVID and the disruption, the disconnections, is very important. So we try basically everything to over-communicate what the mission is. One of the things, particularly among Gen Z people, is that they want to work for a place where they feel connected to the mission, and people prioritize that even over salary. So it's important. Now we try it in a lot of different ways. All staff meetings, emails, small group meetings. I have like 3 lunches a day with different people, to show a connection. About a month ago, the folks at Lake Trust invited us to an offsite that they had when you were coming back together. And that was very inspiring, and we're starting to do more offsites because sometimes when people say, I don't feel connected, we just need to do more things together. And I love that. That was a wonderful event, and thank you for having us at that. So it's nothing earth-shattering, but it's just like reminding people why we're doing what we're doing and try a lot of different stuff. Thank you.
Susie?
Thanks, Marcia. Yeah, we try a lot of different stuff too, from an employer perspective. Besides the obvious of wage and benefits, which is important, I mean, we have found that we look on a regular basis. We do market analysis on wages in the area with all of jobs, just to make sure that we're highly competitive. Same with our benefits. We've put in new benefits, enhanced benefits, particularly focusing on employee well-being, mental health, and giving them resources for that kind of need. But beyond that, we also really focus on flexibility and treating each employee as unique. Especially this last year with people working remotely and liking it. We have a lot of people now that really are doing well at home and don't really feel like they want to come back to the office. So we've embraced that. For those jobs that are able to, we allow people to work from home. I have folks that are working from home 5 days a week, and I have some that are kind of a hybrid of a few days a week at home. I've got other people that want to be in the office. They like that atmosphere. So just being flexible. I have someone actually that's moving to Florida. She's been with us for about 6 years, and she's a great employee. We don't want to lose her, and so she's going to work from Florida for us, and I think it's going to work out great. So flexibility is a big thing. And then we do kind of smaller things. We try and help people disconnect from work, especially if you're working from home. So if we have something, it's little, it's called Zmail, where we encourage people not to send emails after hours or on the weekends, unless it's an emergency. And that way, you know, people can disconnect. Because even if you say, you know, don't look at this till tomorrow, or, you know, no need to address till Monday, people are going to look at it and then they're going to start thinking work. So we want people to be able to disconnect and be with their families, be with their friends, and just have that better work-life balance.
Thank you. And Shamar?
Thank you. Yep, is it working? There it is. All right, great. So I'm sitting here and I'm praying, Susie, please don't say remote work. Please don't say remote work. No one else said it, and thank you. So, no, but first I'd like to really thank the EDC, LC, and SPARK and all of our elected officials for investing here in Livingston County. I want to thank my teammate Stephen, who's here representing Michigan Works Southeast, and all of my board members who are here and present and helping to keep Livingston County as vibrant as it is. But seriously, it sounds cliche, but that remote work piece is what I am calling part of the silver lining of COVID. So we learned a lot about the negatives of COVID, but COVID was able to also bring in and usher in a new way of work. And so we're going to have some questions and some dialogue today that would allow us to go a little bit deeper. But when you look at someone like Michigan Works Southeast, or an organization like Michigan Works Southeast, we are a service-based governmental or quasi-governmental agency. And our people started to speak not only with their voices, but with their legs, that they were looking for flexibility. And so we had to make it wasn't a quick decision, it wasn't a quick process, but we instituted remote work. And you say, how does someone who is case managing or career advising work from home? They said, well, Shamar, we did it for a year. What do you mean? We are able to effectively engage people with all of the technologies. And so my response was, how effective was it? And so I had to go back and look at the numbers, and our decline was less year over year from last year than it was in the previous years. We continue to service our individuals and our businesses effectively. And so that ability to allow people to have flexibility in their workspace created a new culture. But we also do things like our all staffs. I was talking to Alan and preparing for one today. And in those all staffs, we encourage shout outs. So this is an opportunity for any one of you to see something that your colleague is doing and say, hey, Ann Boland did a great job servicing this customer on this day, or Paul Krutko was fantastic at working with this business to make sure that their on-the-job training worked. And as a peer giving a peer, not just a manager, but a peer-to-peer saying, I see you, I value you, that creates a culture of respect, appreciation, and those are just a few of the things that we're doing at Michigan Works Southeast to continue to grow as an organization.
Thank you. All very good. And I see a common thread, and that's culture. It's a supportive culture. Sometimes not all employers can have remote work, but when you've got that culture and it starts from the top down to all employees, you're going to be in good standing. So kicking off, Andrea, the healthcare field has certainly felt the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Throughout these difficult times, what have you observed to be a motivating factor for employee commitment to Ascension? And also, how has your position changed in the last 15, 18 months?
That's a great question. I'm actually laughing a little bit because you wouldn't want our workers probably at the most part to be remote since they take care of all of you. And I'm also laughing because those of us that could be remote, I was just saying to some of the ladies in the back that before COVID, we would have need to sign our life away, our firstborn child, our car. We would need to promise and swear that we would work 8 hours and fill out 54 forms. And after COVID, as COVID was hitting, it was like, grab your stuff and go home as fast as you can. So we certainly learned how to do that. I think at Ascension, for us, people are really drawn to our mission, which I'm hearing a little bit about that here. And I feel like that's what makes us different, right? We're not just healthcare, but we're faith-based healthcare. And when you're going through a crisis like what we went through, we rely a lot on that. And we had a lot of associates come back to us from other places during the pandemic because they wanted to come back to that culture, that feeling, that team, and that faith-based culture. So I feel like that has been one of our cornerstones for us. And as far as how things have changed since the pandemic, our whole world has flipped since the pandemic. So how we work with our patients, how long it takes for us to get in with our patients with all of our PPE, and just our general, as all of you, right, we are also facing some staffing shortages. And so that causes us to work differently. And some of us are remote now, and so that's a challenge as well. So I'm going to need to learn more about the Z-mail because that'll be exciting for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Susie, you work with multiple employers on their staffing needs, in addition to supporting work skills. The need for talent is not a new problem for employers. Did the pandemic create a great resignation out of the workforce? And if so, what are your opinions on what should be done to address this? And who needs to be at the table?
So, great resignation is probably a really good term. We have seen a mass exodus of labor. I think in Michigan, the labor force participation rate is now under 60%. So it's really concerning, and it's a very big deal. And I don't know of any employer that's really not feeling it. Who needs to be at the table? I mean, from the federal to the state government, they should all be at the table. I think there are programs in place that create an environment that's not conducive for bringing employees back in. So there's that. But, there's also things that employers can do now to, we've talked about retention strategies, but to acquire employees. And, there's a lot of reasons that people leave, whether it's they're retiring early or they have childcare issues. We just had an example at our table today where, sorry, Phil, I'm going to use you as an example, but he had to leave work early because his daycare had to close at noon. I don't know if it was a staffing shortage or there was a COVID, but, he had to leave his work early. There are enhanced social welfare programs that are keeping people home. There's a lot of reasons, health and safety, people fear coming into work. So if employers can address those fears with their employees, make sure they have a safe work environment. Make sure that if they have people that have to take time off because of childcare, that they're able to make those accommodations if possible. If someone is looking to resign early, look at retention strategies and encouraging them to stay on. I know a company that does that, where they actually have a program that if someone is scheduled to retire, that they retain them for an extra year. So there are things that employers can do as well at this level to keep people from leaving.
Thank you. Shamar, Michigan Works Southeast works with job seekers as well as employers. So I think the $1 million question is, I'm sure you get asked a lot, where are the job seekers? What hurdles are your job seekers that your team works with are facing to find that job that employers should know about?
Great question. And it is the $1 million question, and I'm sure you're waiting with bated breath for some sort of phenomenal answer. And the truth is, I don't have it, right? The problem is, this is not simple addition. is the analogy I'm using. This is not have an individual add an employment opportunity, economy is fantastic, right? That's not what's going on. It's more like that algebra 2 stuff that we all sort of, well, some of us dreaded back in high school because there are so many variables, it's so complex, but there are a few core common pieces that are sticking and resonating with the job seekers. Number one, it's been mentioned several times. Am I willing to go and work in a place that does not show value to me? Okay, so for all of our employers out here, and that includes me, because even though we're a quasi-governmental nonprofit organization, we're an employer. And so are we creating a culture of value for not only our staff, but the individuals who come into our doors? Something as simple as starting to offer coffee, right? People aren't coming to Michigan Works because life is great, right? They're coming to us and they're looking for opportunities to either start their career or advance their career. And a lot of people are nervous. They're nervous about the safety of the work conditions where they're going or potentially headed. They're worried about elder care for their parents who may still be at home. They're worried about child care. They're worried about wages. They're worried about benefits. So those are things, when I talk about complexities, not everyone can remote work from home. We have customer service assistants. Those are the people who greet you when you come in the doors. As a management team, we say, well, how the heck do they work from home? They're the ones greeting people. And I say, I don't care, we have to figure it out. We have to figure it out. And so we came up with a tiered system. Not everybody gets the same amount of remote work opportunity. Everybody gets remote work, but it doesn't look the same for everyone. And some are saying the great resignation, we say the turnover tsunami, right? Because there's a churn happening. So I am more of an advocate of believing in optimism. So they're leaving you, they might be able to come work for me. Mine are leaving us and they may be able to work for you. So we try and add value to the individuals that come through our doors by letting them know our employers are starting to see what flexibility really looks like. What does it mean to have flexibility? Whether it's in benefits, whether it's in wages, whether it's in space and place, how are you as an employer going to show people we value you and we're going to work with you, because everyone's situation is different. It may not be childcare, it may be mom or dad. So that's what we're starting to see. Our individuals are telling us it's not about the money. If I have to take 2 buses to get to your location and I started at 6 a.m. I didn't even get to see my babies off to school. I started at 6 a.m. I caught 2 buses to get here. And I'm always 10 minutes late. I know employers are saying, okay, you get here at 8:10, you leave at 5:10. You need money today, we're gonna start paying you daily. You gotta figure it out. They're showing you that they will go home. Again, my term is, they're speaking with their feet. So it's up to us to be flexible per institution. There is no universal answer. It's what can you all do to show value to individuals?
Thank you, Shamar. That's a great answer on where our job seekers are. Dr. Jimmer, partnering with higher learning institutions is not always top of mind for a lot of our employers as a benefit for their employees. Can you talk about how it can be advantageous for companies to work with Cleary for purposes of developing and retaining talent?
Yeah, sure. And it's by the way, it's not just Cleary, it's any institution. And I think like Shamar, what you were saying a lot about creating value. And I think what we've seen, even before the pandemic, we saw companies starting to offer education benefits, more education benefits to employees and big employers. Amazon, Starbucks, Walmart, Target, they have started to do this in different ways, partly as a gesture, as a signal, both for recruitment and retention. In our own case, you know, we're a small private university here up the road. The core of our students are 18-year-olds. They love athletics. We have a beautiful stadium. But we have had, and we've had more adult students. We work with Team Showstack, all their restaurants. And since August, we've been the sole provider of bachelor's and master's degrees to the Detroit Police Department. And that's been a wonderful experience for us. Those are adult students. And just in the case of Detroit Police Department, they're having, as you might expect, they're having trouble recruiting people into the force, and they're having trouble hanging on to them. And so they're sweetening that value proposition. So number one, it's a rat race. Everybody's competing with everybody else. So I think that's one thing that's pushing people towards it. It does drive recruitment and retention. That can be measured. That has a cost. You know, one thing sometimes I talk to employers, sometimes people think the cost of an employee leaving is just the cost of putting out an ad to get somebody back, but it is so much more than that. It is the cost of filling in while their productivity is declining before they leave, and training the new person, and the morale of all how many all staffs do you have to do when people leave to buck up their morale? All of these things, and that can be measured and monetized, and I think some of the more progressive companies have been trying to do that. But it is hard. I mean, sometimes I've heard companies say to us, well, our employees aren't looking for a degree. And that's fair. And I think there are also opportunities to help people get certificates or short-term credentials, because then that can be a path to a degree. But what I see employers trying or thinking about more is, how can I send a gesture to employees that I care about you? And by the way, there are big tax benefits to companies and to individuals for doing this. But I think people are thinking about it more, and I think in the long run that'll be good. Even after the pandemic, I mean, it's a very healthy thing.
Good, thank you. Dr. Hubert, same thing. What's the advantage of employers working with our K-12 students? And I know LESA works primarily with our career tech programs as well.
Yeah, so I think, first on the remote work type thing, I'm loving the remote work. So in my role as superintendent, I'm also a farmer on the side. And so my ability to take a Zoom call from the tractor cab, but instead of having to go shower up, run into meetings, all that, I'm loving the remote work myself. So it fits all of our worlds. I think in that relationship of what public education provides, right, an educated workforce. We have 2,500 students graduating every year, depending on the year, rough number. 500 of those students are staying right around here. They're not heading off to college. They're not going into training programs. They're going to be looking for work, right? So I think one of the things we need to do now more is to lean into that and develop a new relationship. A shout out to Heidi and Laura, who are back here and part of our Career Tech Ed team. And I'm speaking a little bit ahead of myself here by saying we're going to be providing job fairs for employers in ways that we haven't before, right? The chance to come to a high school and to participate in a job fair at the high school and to talk with sophomores about internship opportunities, co-op opportunities, to talk with juniors about the possibility of guiding into your employment, even though you need them to go to college first, but maybe scholarships, maybe just that relationship piece. But start forming relationships earlier than we ever have before. Trying to capture those 2,500 individuals and guide them into your places of work through that relationship development. We're going to try to provide that as we go forward into the springtime. My ideal is at each high school. So depending on where you are located, it's a convenient step right over to the high school, engage in a job fair opportunity, meet those students, see how really good they are coming out of our school system, and see what you want to do with them and what you can inspire them to achieve. You'll create opportunities. You got to see it to be it. And sometimes the students are not seeing what's possible. You can really change that. You can change the trajectory of their life. You can bring in new employees if you lean in a little bit and engage in things like that. And so I'm excited we're going to be able to make it happen as we get into the springtime. So get the snow off the ground. I'll be in planting season, but we'll be doing job fairs and doing all those kinds of things also. I'm just excited about what that can bring in some new ways to our relationship between employers and our public educators.
Thank you. Andrea, Susie touched on the Great Resignation and ways that employers are reeling from this. In what ways in your role has talent acquisition changed since the pandemic as a result of, again, what these job seekers are looking for? How has Ascension had to make changes?
Well, certainly. So really tagging on, we've really started connecting more with our partner universities, our partner schools. We have opportunities for your students, right? We have opportunities for your students and for Michigan Works. We have those opportunities. And so we're doing more to seek that out just as a company, and we're doing more to help train people. So partnering on things like medical assistant programs, for example, and partnering more on just those allied healthcare positions to get people in the door, and then doing exactly what you were saying, giving them scholarships, tuition reimbursement, and opportunities to be able to grow their career with us. So the time I think of the nurse that has 10 years that's going to show up on our doorstep is probably over. But the time that we can take people from Livingston County and bring them in and train them and show them a pathway into amazing healthcare careers, that's really what we're focusing on at this time.
I love it. Good relationship with Susie, I'm going to ask you the same question because on behalf of Action Associates, you are working with multiple employer clients. How has talent acquisition changed even from a third-party provider?
Well, I mean, first of all, the dollars that are spent on acquiring talent are, at least 5 times what they were even a year ago. I mean, between advertising and sign-on bonuses and referral bonuses and everything you can imagine, costs have greatly increased. But as far as our recruiter's role, I think the recruiter's role is really enhanced. They're not just screening and looking for red flags and doing interviews. Their candidate is their customer, and they have to treat them as such, and they have to give them a good experience. And whether that means, counseling them through a good job fit, helping them to get the resources they need if they have any barriers to employment. So if there's a transportation barrier or a childcare, they're connected with a success coach right from the get-go before they even start the job to get them all the resources they need to be successful. So it's a much longer, in-depth process with our recruiters now getting folks, and this is at all levels of employment.
Thank you. Shamar, how has Michigan Works Southeast adapted through the pandemic in working both with businesses and job seekers? What is your team doing differently today to provide resources to both those employers and job seekers?
Stephen, you want to? No. So, excuse me. It is more about listening than it is quickly putting and cobbling together what we think an employer or a job seeker needs. So we started a program pre-pandemic called Business Resource Networks. Mm-hmm. Do we have anyone in this space who is a part of the Livingston Business Resource Network? Right? So we got some recruiting to do here, and I'm going to use work skills to talk about it, right? So what a business resource network is the opportunity for an employer to invest again or reinvest in the opportunity to recruit and retain. Because as Susie mentioned, there are individuals that are working in your spaces and places who have barriers that you may not know about. They may not be willing to talk about it. They may not want to let you know that they are on the verge of foreclosure. But you as an employer can say, hey, we want to create a safe space. We're going to bring in a third party to help you understand that we're investing in you. And that individual as a third party is called a success coach. And that person is in your space. They're located in your office or your factory or wherever you do business at. And your employees know while so-and-so is there, they can go in and talk about whatever barriers they're facing. So this is sort of a twofer here with a job seeker and an employer, because the job seeker or the employee knows that, once again, the employer is creating fertile ground for me to grow here by saying, hey, they've invested in me and we've covered everything from someone's mortgage. We paid 2 payments to ensure that they would not have their home foreclosed on. She was saying she was outfitting her car to prepare for her and her daughter to live in that vehicle. Not on my watch and not on the employer's watch. We've covered everything from steel-toe boots to transportation. And so those business resource networks are opportunities for individuals as a job seeker to see that the business is reinvesting in them and saying, no, we're going to allow you to come here and focus on the work and the task at hand. The last thing you need is someone operating your press who's food insecure or housing insecure. They're not focused on the task. They're focused on where their next meal is going to be, and not often are people willing to tell you that until you create a space for them to feel safe about it. So Stephen and I will be around this evening for us to converse about what a business resource network could look like for you. We've got some opportunities to be able to help out with some of the cost involved because we can't do it for free, but we certainly can help supplement businesses that are interested in it. So that's just one of the ways that Michigan Works Southeast isn't necessarily doing the work, but we're providing the platform for businesses and job seekers to grow and prosper.
Absolutely, and it's a great tool. I'm so privileged to actually have a BRN here in Livingston County. I'm going to ask each of the panelists this question. We have an audience this evening, a lot of local officials, local and community leaders. How can our communities be a part of finding ways to support the attraction and retention of talent? If you were to bring our community leaders to the table, what would you want to say to them? How could they help? Andrea?
So I think for us, that partnership would be in helping us with job training. And I know we always are looking to our legislators to help us with that, but we'd like to look to all of you to help us with that too. So if you have job training opportunities, and I saw the awards this morning, that's a need for us and could be a great partnership.
Mike?
So I guess I want to speak from another perspective of my role at the agency, and that's working with students that have disabilities, and sometimes cognitive, sometimes physical disabilities in a range from minor to major. I think that's an area I would ask for some listening on. I think it's another untapped aspect of employability and opportunity for our relationships as we advance together. When we think of students with autism, they can be extremely productive assets within organizations, and we have many examples, and we have job coaches that help place students in organizations. I respect it sometimes takes effort. It sometimes takes a little bit of subsidization from an organization. It takes a certain patience and skill set, but we can help grow. But I guess I would ask for some listening around that. It's unfortunate in our communities. We sometimes will see a person with disability in a grocery store and we go down another aisle because we're not certain how to interact or what might bring in that relational aspect. And I don't think we can accept that from an employer relationship in our school organizations. And I would ask for simply some focus on that, some patience with that, some people opening their minds to some new things in that regard, and supporting our people in our communities that have disabilities that can be tremendously valuable employees in many organizations.
That is a phenomenal answer. And it's an untapped part of our workforce that we continue to find ways to bridge with employers. Dr. Drimmer?
Yeah, I think, a couple of things. I mean, first of all, I think local government can help us connect with businesses to come in early to help solve problems. It doesn't always have to be a degree. It could be a leadership program, something that's inspiring. I mean, we have all this human capital that creates curriculum and thinks about learning. And, I think we appreciate the opportunity to come in and work with organizations to help them achieve their goals. The second thing is that I think we can help one another. We would like to connect with the business community. We're a university. We've got, altogether, we've probably got 1,000 people on our campus, and they buy stuff. And so we're talking to Nick Proctor, the mayor, and Howell to understand how we might do a better job bringing our students into town and how we could get employers to come visit us. So it's a little bit of matchmaking, but I think we can help one another. Sometimes we just need somebody to help push us in that direction.
Hey, that's a good role for Spark. Susie?
Transportation and attainable housing. That's in Livingston County. We have a lot of jobs, and we have a lot of job seekers from outside the county, and we have a lot of employees from outside the county that drive or take 2 or 3 buses or what have you to get to their job. There's some great organizations in the county that are working towards these goals, but not fast enough. So I would say that any of you that have any influence in those areas, please come to the table.
Shanar?
Anyone heard of the term ALICE? Right? We see some heads nodding. So that's the Asset Limited Constrained Income.
Asset limited, income constrained,
employed. So these are the individuals that are working 2, 3, 4 jobs trying to make ends meet. And a lot of times people look down on these folks. I look up to them because they're doing everything in their power to ensure that they have food on the table, a roof over their head. Some people look at services like what I deliver as some sort of welfare. It's not welfare. It's reinvestment of tax dollars, okay? So what I would encourage individuals to do is not give sympathy, give empathy. Try and put yourself in someone else's shoes. I grew up not in poverty. I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth either. I grew up in the middle of Detroit in the 80s and 90s. My mom worked at Hutzel Hospital as an operating room tech. Still, 48 years later, my mom is still at DMC as an operating room tech. Never made over 40 grand in her life, but showed me a quality of life. And so just know, not everybody was given the privileges. I'm an asthmatic, I got my inhaler in my pocket. The fact that she did that to ensure that her baby had health care, okay? So everybody's working at a different pace from a different space and place. Just try and get on their level, understand, listen, learn, and then do what you can do. You don't have to do anything magical. You don't have to do anything extra special. Just do what you're capable of doing to help out.
That is a great answer. Thank you. At this time, we are going to open it up for questions, and Nick has a microphone, so please, we encourage the dialogue. Just raise your hand and Nick will. There are no questions from the audience.
Thank you. Hi, Shamar. I haven't seen you in many years. I really enjoyed working with you. Good to see you. For Dr. Michael, one of the things I like just to, in my past, I did 20 years of HR work for a large manufacturer. And we did manufacturing day. And it wasn't the traditional manufacturing day where you have one day where you have students come in. We actually went to the schools, our employer, and we visited with all the schools, and we rented out buses to have them come to our manufacturing. I encourage you to get the parent or somebody with them, because it's amazing when they realize that they're with their child and they're going through this experience. We found that talking to sophomores, by the time they are seniors, we're bringing them into work. And it's a great opportunity for them when they will realize that I want to be an accountant, but there's accounting jobs in that factory. There's supervisors' jobs in that factory. It's given them that opportunity to see the whole big picture. So, and it worked. So as one of our recruiting measures that we use, we went to all the schools. So I'm glad to hear you're doing that, but I just wanted to add that to it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's great thinking, and I think that's a very positive opportunity for us. So spot on. A lot of parents don't understand what's inside the factories, what's the possibility, because they know their world as they lived it, and not as others can. And so I think that would be a great thing for us to consider.
Any other questions for our panelists? Oh, we have a couple.
Hi, panel. My name's Greg. Might be a crazy type of question, but I want to bring it up. Maybe somebody's working with someone like this right now, or an agency. Are we looking at it all like for second chances type of individuals. I'm not looking at people who might have shared a cell with Jeffrey Dahmer or something when I say that, okay? But I'm talking about some people who may not have a clean record that won't apply to, you know, big company like Thai Summit or something like that because, well, they're not going to take me, right? I had a DUI or something like that, and I'm a felon. I'm not going to do that. Are we reaching out to anybody to kind of look at that herd and see if they're employable by setting up some sort of standards and regulations?
So anyone familiar with Clean Slate? So legislation that passed in April is now law and allowing businesses to look at these individuals in a different way. And you know, someone could have a felony from 25 years ago when they were 17 and they made a mistake, right? Who in here hasn't made a mistake, right? So the Clean Slate legislation allows Michigan Works Southeast to put on expungement fairs. And so what these fairs do is allow a job seeker to come in and work with us, legal services, Michigan State Police, and the court system to have 1 felony and 2 misdemeanors removed from their record. So expunging those convictions allows them to go out with a little bit more confidence when they're hitting the job market. And so we have an expungement fair coming up here. I'm sorry, I don't have the date, but before we leave here, I will have the date. And if you want to come talk to me about what an expungement fair, further details for you as an employer, because what we do is we funnel them in, we get that conviction removed, and before they leave the building, we have our employers right in the building so that they can say, okay, well, let's start what the process looks like. And I don't say post-pandemic, where we're at right now, I have employers asking the question, oh, you have a felony? Well, what was it? It's not a CSC, when can you start? So employers are starting to say, hey, we are seeing opportunity here because these people are showing up ready to work. They're convicted of changing their lives, not what they did in the past, but they have conviction of, hey, I'm a changed person. And they bring that to the table and they want to prove to you that that old Shamar is way back there. You don't have to worry about that. I've made the changes necessary. Or my friend picked me up in a car. He said it was his uncle's and they found out it was stolen, right? Not everything was well plotted out and someone got in trouble for it. So just know that there are opportunities as you as employers and leaders in the community to lead the change in hiring individuals who may have something in their background that isn't the most pleasant.
Was there another hand, another question? Commissioner?
Thank you for being here tonight. A lot of good information. And thank you, Marcia, for all your work on behalf of Livingston County. I think one of the biggest concerns that I've heard among the employed is vaccine mandates. I have several friends that are contemplating resigning their position so they wouldn't have to take the mandate. 3 questions. What is happening in that regard in your individual fields? What is the impact if many people are resigned, and what can be done?
Sure, yeah.
So in public education, we don't, right now in our agency and in our public schools, we don't have a mandate for vaccines in place. And we've been in tune with what President Biden suggests as the possibility of having to engage because of we have 650 employees at our agency, thousands of employees across the county and our public schools. So we'll be above that 100 employee threshold. So we're prepared to support testing in that case. I've tried to be very frank with my employees that I'm not going to require it unless I have to. And I'm not going to invade their space and ask them, have they been received it or not? We only get to that if they've been exposed through contact tracing, and we need to understand the ability to bring them back to work or not. And the vaccine can change that dynamic. So I don't intend to. If we have to, we will. Until then, We'll provide tests if we can. I think it would have a detrimental impact on our schools. There's still a lot of employees that, from what I gather in talking with them, don't have the vaccine and would walk away from jobs if that was the case. So it would potentially shut us down in ways that I wouldn't be proud of. So I hope we don't get to that point, because I'm not looking forward to that type of situation at all.
The employers that we work with, none have mandated yet, and they're not looking to, precisely because they know that many of them will lose a lot of their workers. They've already either surveyed or they know how many are vaccinated and how many don't want to be vaccinated. So it's a concern, but they're doing everything they can to have a safe workplace, to, if someone tests positive, they go ahead and take the measures that are recommended by the CDC. What can we do? Call your congressman and vote, right?
Andrea?
So in healthcare, we do have a vaccine mandate at Ascension, like many of our competing healthcare systems do. I don't know the impact of that yet. We are not to our mandate date yet, so I don't have a good answer for you there. And of course, like everybody else, right? We have people that appreciate the mandate, and then we have people that don't appreciate the mandate. I guess like everything else in life. So just not a good answer yet on the outcome of that.
We can entertain one final question this evening, or two. Yeah.
Good evening, Mindy with Consumers Energy. Thank you all for being here tonight. Many of your comments really resonated with me. And Shamar, thank you for the work you and your team are doing. It's truly changing lives, and we appreciate that. A question for the panel: is anyone engaged with or know of innovative ways to use technology, either to reach job seekers or to engage and retain current job seekers, whether it's an app, whatever type of technology for that purpose? Thank you.
Oh, technology, job seekers.
We use AI to get to job seekers. There's a couple of programs that we use that kind of speed up the flow of candidates into our pipeline, and that's been helpful. They're called chatbots, so that's been good. I would also say whatever technology you use, what we've found is making that candidate experience seamless. We were kind of doing a big electronic paper dump on candidates too early in the process. And what we found was that they were dropping off. So, make sure whatever you use is mobile friendly, a few clicks of a button and they're in your system. And then you can get on the phone with them and get them engaged. So I think that whatever you use, that's kind of a big factor too.
I guess I would just add on that, I work in learning and education, so I think a lot about that. But I think there's good evidence that if organizations can help employees move forward in their career paths, that's a retention tool. And there's some very good software packages that help people understand how to get from one position to the next, and the skills gaps and how those can be filled with different kinds of micro learning, not getting a whole degree or anything like that, but just certain skill sets, particularly with certifications. I mean, now in a lot of the high growth fields in cybersecurity and IT and AI, there are certifications, even in digital media. I mean, all of our organizations probably do some kind of digital media. There are certifications that people can acquire along the way and almost stack them like Boy Scout badges or something like that. And so creating, I think, pathways so that people can see that, particularly if there are salary increases associated with that along the way. I mean, that's, I think, a big driver of what might prompt somebody to learn some of these things.
And I had the opportunity to have a deconstructed salad, right? And it was cool. And so, Mindy, to deconstruct your question a little bit, I want to say what we're doing at Michigan Works Southeast is we're preparing our career advisors and our business services coordinators to encourage individuals around Industry 4.0. So the cyber security, the artificial intelligence, data is the new currency. You have to click for consent of just about anything, any platform you're on now. And so we want to encourage the people who are encouraging the job seekers that technology isn't going anywhere. It's not, it isn't. So I heard a quote, never has technology moved this fast and never will it move this slow again. So as long as you can wrap your mind around, never has technology moved this fast and never will it move this slow again, you can encourage someone in a different way. Industry 4.0 is not 5 years down the road. It is we're actually 5 to 10 years behind.
Yeah, we are.
If you don't know what a cobot is, if you don't know what a robot is, if you don't know that there's technology the size of a grain of sand, just go type in Industry 4.0 into the Googles and it will show you. And so we're trying to encourage our folks who are encouraging job seekers. There's more than truck driving. There's more than phlebotomy and certified nurses assistants. There's a lot of not that there's anything wrong with those. Nothing wrong with those opportunities, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more out here, so broaden your horizons. I look at our hospitals as, just like I do our universities, there's probably 1,000 different employment opportunities in your space. And so get with what you like to do and enjoy doing, and you'll work a day in your life, but it won't be as painful.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you on the panel this evening for sharing your insights, for participating, and for joining us this evening. And if all of you could just join me in a round of applause and appreciation. You are formally dismissed. At this time, I'd like to invite Nathan Bird to the stage for closing remarks.
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you, Marcia. It's great to be here tonight, and I learned a lot from that panel. I took a lot of notes, and I think Z-mail might be the greatest thing I've ever heard of, so we'll be talking about that with our team. Serving on the EDC Executive Committee has really been a pleasure since I moved to the county about 15 months ago or so, and I am really honored to be the incoming board chairman. But at this time, I would like to focus on the outgoing board chairman. I'd like to take a moment to thank Mike Arkinall for his service for the last 2 years, 2020 and 2021. As chair, Mike led our organization through unprecedented times, as we've been talking about tonight. He also accepted the role of chair for that second year, largely so I could have a little bit more time to settle in once I moved here. And so I really appreciate that, Mike. So if you would be willing to come up, Mike, we have a gift for you, and we'd like to give the crowd an opportunity to give you a round of applause. Thank you again, Mike. Well, as a newcomer to the county the past year, it's been really a privilege and it's been exciting to learn about the work SPARK does in our county on behalf of the EDCLC. It's made up of a great board of leaders. There's a list in the program, and I look at that and I think, wow, I'm honored just to be part of this in any way, shape, or form, especially to chair it, though, is a real honor. And so I look forward to working with our board, working with all of you over the next year to continue to grow our county's economy, support our businesses, and sustain our communities. I want to name our sponsors tonight, and I want to thank them all. DTE, Comcast, ITC, Lake Trust Credit Union, First National Bank of Howell, Michigan Works Southeast, Ascension, Consumers Energy, KW Corporation, Total Security Solution, and Toyota Gosei. We greatly appreciate the support that you provided for tonight's gathering. And thank all of you, our attendees. We're going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening, but thanks so much for coming and thanks for your support. Look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you.